general manager here for the 3-year run that brought Embiid, Joel, Okafor, and a slew of draft choices.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Hoops Reference YouTube channel, and today we're going to be talking about Chris Paul. As we all know, Chris Paul has been consistently considered one of, if not the best point guards in the entire NBA throughout his career. When he chose to go to the Los Angeles Clippers in the summer of 2011 to team up with Blake Griffin, he had very high aspirations. Every season for the next 6 seasons, it was seen as a championship or bust scenario for them, and every one of those 6 seasons ended in disappointment before even reaching the Western Conference Finals. Finally fed up with the direction of the team, and rightfully so, Chris Paul shocked everyone this offseason by deciding to team up with first-team All-NBA guard James Harden in Houston. Sure, the Rockets had to give up first-team All-Defense member Patrick Beverley, along with former Sixth Man of the Year winner Lou Williams, Sam Dekker, and Montrezl Harrell, but when a bona fide superstar is available, that's the kind of price that the Rockets should be willing to pay, and they did. When the dust finally settled on this deal and everyone came back down to reality afterward, a lot of people had questions about Paul's fit on the Rockets. During his tenure on the Clippers, Paul typically had a usage rate of about 24%, which is already relatively high for league standards. Pairing him with a player who just recently had the second highest usage rate in the entire league last year in James Harden, whose usage was at 34.2%, is going to bring in some doubters. The common point made by these skeptics was that there's only one ball, so this pairing won't work. Well, through a quarter of the season, this duo is proving that they couldn't be more perfect for each other. So far in games that Chris Paul has played in, the Rockets are undefeated with a 10-0 record. In these games, the average margin of victory is by 17 points. Not only are they winning, but they're blowing out almost everyone in their path. Rarely do they even encounter crunch time, but when they have, they've been almost an unstoppable force. Against the Trailblazers, the Rockets found themselves down by 14 points going into the fourth quarter. They then exploded for 40 points in the final frame and outscored the Blazers by 21 points on their way to yet another win. This is because the presence that Chris Paul brings to the Rockets late in games takes pressure off of Harden. He had to create every single point every single time down the court last year for the team to be successful. With CP3 on the court as a creator and all the shooters around him, Harden was able to attack his matchup in isolation, possession after possession, and, as the best isolation player in the NBA, according to Synergy Sports, absolutely abused the single coverage thrown at him. Harden scored 16 points that fourth quarter, and seemingly could not be stopped or miss a shot, because for once, not all the attention was on him late in the game. Paul also added 10 points and 3 assists in the fourth quarter of that game, and every possession felt like Paul and Harden were just taking turns dissecting the defense. In years past, Harden had to score and create for others every time down the floor because the Rockets really didn't have another guy capable of doing so on a consistent basis. This year, however, the Rockets not only added another capable playmaker, but it just so happens to be a future Hall of Famer. Next, let's look at why the Rockets have been blowing out teams seemingly every game they play with Paul in the lineup. The Rockets are currently the second highest scoring team in the NBA, behind only the Warriors to no one's surprise. That number that will come as a surprise to many, however, is that the Rockets are also the 5th best defensive team in the NBA.
Oh, no, none of that here. It's a waste of energy and it's no fun. I say half the defense, double the offense.
Actually, it's been double the offense and double the defense. The Rockets are truly a force on both ends of the court, which no one saw coming. However, if we paid close enough attention, perhaps we should have. Chris Paul last year was named first team All-Defense. Him being able to take a backseat on offense to James Harden has allowed him to focus his time and energy to the defensive end, where he's been an absolute pit bull of a defender. To show just how dominant Chris Paul has been on the defensive end, players shoot a whole 6% worse from the field when Paul guards them. They also shoot a whopping 13.1% worse in the paint when guarded by Paul, which is absolutely insane production by a guard. For comparison, current Defensive Player of the Year candidate Joel Embiid, who is a center and is known as one of the best rim protectors in the league, only makes players shoot 12.1% worse while in the paint. Chris Paul has brought a new culture of defense to a team that has been known to slack off on that end in the past. When it comes to his offensive production, Chris Paul has taken a step back for the betterment of the team. He is currently averaging the lowest amount of points per game in his entire career at 14.3, but his assists are still high as ever at 9.8 per game. Some people were worried about whether or not his ego would get in the way of him accepting a secondary role, but so far he's been incredible in this role. He makes everyone around him better, and when he and Harden share the court, the following players shoot above 50% from the field: James Harden, Clint Capella, Mbah Moute, Nene, PJ Tucker, Ryan Anderson, and Trevor Ariza. Basically, every player in the Rockets rotation but Eric Gordon is hyper efficient when they share the court with those two players. It's insane. Another eye-opening stat for Chris Paul this year is that he currently is the 100th percentile in points created from shots and assists per possession. Let me repeat that. He is the very best player in the NBA right now in creating points per possession. Add this production to the current leading MVP candidate in James Harden, who leads the league in points and is second in the league in assists, and it becomes one of the deadliest duos in the entire NBA. On top of all of this, the one final reason that CP3 has been a perfect fit on the Rockets this year is that his ability to knock down catch-and-shoot jumpers has been at a very high rate. Mike D'Antoni's offense features a lot of pick-and-roll, spot-up shooting, and isolation. Chris Paul has always been one of the best pick-and-roll point guards in the league and is typically pretty efficient in isolations, but his catch-and-shoot rapport was not quite established before because of all the time he used to spend on the ball. Now that he's in an offense where players are able to create shots for him instead of vice versa, he's shooting 50% on catch-and-shoot threes. Overall, adding a player that contributes everything that I just mentioned in this video to an already established MVP candidate was bound to bring on nothing but good things to the Rockets. The luxury of having either one Hall of Famer in Chris Paul or another Hall of Famer in James Harden on the court running the offense for all 48 minutes of a game has been giving opposing defenses nightmares all year. Whether or not they'll be able to compete with the Warriors in the playoffs is still yet to be seen, but as of right now, they sit atop the Western Conference, looking down on the rest of the league. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave a like if you enjoyed my first video. New videos will hopefully be coming every week, so stay tuned for that, and follow me on Twitter @HoopsReference for updates. With that, I'll see you guys next week.